Okay, just before we start here, we're actually getting close to the most users in EVE ever, so if you have more accounts, log them on. Let's break that concurrent user record tonight. But while you guys log all your characters on, let's see what's happening on the field.
And welcome back again. We have Old Intentions versus Ushra'Khan, and you're listening to Verone and Brianna Tempest commentating. And for Old Intentions on the field, we have something that Amar players are going to love. We have a trio of Armageddons, an Abaddon, a Damnation, and a Guardian fielded.
And on the Ushra'Khan side, we have a Nighthawk, 2 Sleipnirs, 2 Cyclones, a Basilisk, and a Raven.
And we are just waiting for the 1-minute countdown in local from CCP Claw. 2 interesting setups. Neither team fielding the entire 10 players in their teams. It's quite an interesting pair of setups. What do you make of it, Brianna?
This is pretty interesting. Basically a missile speed setup versus a fully tanked Amar setup. And looking at just the how they're setting up their teams, I can't really tell if if there's going to be a team that's going to come up tops. I think it's going to depend on the fleet commanders as well.
Yep, I'm going to agree there. You can see straight away that the 3 Armageddons have been brought in very close range. Looks as if they're pulse fitted. We have the Abaddon off at range as a sniper, along with the Damnation and the Guardian. The Guardian brought in at range for its logistics capabilities. We can see there straight away the Ushra'Khan team dropping a huge pile of Warrior 2s. The Abaddon instantly opening up onto the Basilisk of Ushra'Khan.
And actually, the Abaddon from Old Intentions actually just dropped a ton of Hornet EC jamming drones, presumably on the Basilisk for the Ushra'Khan team.
Yep, the Guardian there of the Old Intentions team taking a lot of fire from a big group of Warrior 2s. We can see there the Basilisk taking an absolute beating by the Abaddon. It's amazing how much damage these things can put out, and just as I speak, the Basilisk gets volleyed out of existence.
So is the Guardian actually from Old Intentions, so this should be an interesting match. It's basically a race to see who can dish out the most DPS, and it seems like one of the Armageddons from the Old Intentions team is actually starting to drop in about half armor.
Yeah, both logistics ships there just pounded to death, and we can see there one of the Cyclones from the Ushra'Khan team taking an absolute batter, and we're going to lose him any second now. And we also have an Armageddon in low armor. It's not going to cut a massive amount of the DPS out. They lose that Armageddon. They still have 2 plus the long range Abaddon.
Yes, as we speak, we lose that Cyclone also, Ushra'Khan team, so it's now 1 Abaddon, 1 Damnation, 2 Armageddons versus a Nighthawk, a Sleipnir, 2 Cyclones, and a Raven.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting situation. We had both FCs made the right call to get rid of the logistics off the field straight away, in my opinion. Then we've just got 2 really big buffer tanks now, and well, it looks as if the Amarians, those who've chose the Amar field, actually really aren't faring too well. And see the damage output they have. Another Cyclone just melting there.
I'm a little surprised that the Amar team has not really chosen the Raven as one of their primary targets, because in real life or in Tranquility, the Raven is always ridiculed for its very low tank, and it does do a little bit of DPS with its cruise missile launchers, but the tank is pretty mean compared to all the other ships, all the other battleships that the Caldari or the Amar has.
Yeah, you can see there just the sheer amount of damage put out by Amar battleships is absolutely immense. But what's confusing me about the Ushra'Khan team here is the fact that they're not exactly trying to make an effort to keep the transversal velocities up against these guys. It's we can see there an Armageddon just about to go down for the Old Intentions team, down to 2 battleships now, 1 Armageddon, 1 Abaddon, and a Damnation versus a Nighthawk, a Sleipnir, and a Raven.
And I think the Sleipnir is actually active tanking, because we just saw some of its shield recharge back up. So it seems like the Abaddons are moving at all. So maybe, you know, if these guys are not really fitting micro warp drives or afterburners on them, they're just full tank.
Yep, it looks that way. The Abaddon definitely looks as if it's very heavily tanked. Long range fitted, appears to be a full rack of 8 Tech 2 Tachyons as far as I can see. We've got an Armageddon there, straight into half armor again. Wow, this isn't really looking good.
It's interesting to see who's going to go down. The Armageddon is in about 40% armor, and the Cyclone for the Ushra'Khan team is about also 30% armor. Going down really, really fast.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I think which one of these ships goes down first may decide the match. Well, we're going to lose the Cyclone of Ushra'Khan first. One very heavily shield tank ship, no doubt, the Nighthawk there. But the Raven, I think, is just going to melt under the power of these two of my battleships.
Yeah, I think by this point the Ushra'Khan team is not going to have enough DPS to take down the Abaddon and the Damnation, because as we saw in the last match, Damnation does have a very, very nasty tank, and so does the Abaddon. Although I think they'll just manage to take down this Armageddon with them.
Yeah, but my apologies, it's just been pointed out to me that that was indeed a Sleipnir, not a Cyclone. My bad in that respect. So, we have an Abaddon and a Damnation left on the field for Old Intentions, and we have a Raven and a Nighthawk left on the field for Ushra'Khan.
And Abaddon is quickly approaching its armor. We'll start to see its armor starting to go down a little bit, but not by much. I would actually expect the Raven to completely be destroyed before the Abaddon even goes into half armor.
Yeah, but I think if that Abaddon gets its fire focused and it actually manages to lay down the fire onto the Raven, it's going to be in serious trouble. It's really surprising actually, unless that Raven is top fitted. I'm trying to get a quick look at it now to see how it's going, but we've also got the Damnation there of the Old Intentions team, quite heavily target pin the Raven of Ushra'Khan.
Yeah, the Raven is actually active tank and is using cruise missiles, which means it's not going to do really too much in terms of DPS. Although we're starting to see that Abaddon go into about, about half armor or so. And the Nighthawk does put out a little bit of DPS, but the Damnation itself, it's not really going to be able to do much to the Nighthawk. And it seems like the Raven is actually doing pretty well against my expectations.
Yeah, the strange thing, I'm watching this Nighthawk pilot here, and he isn't actually doing a great deal. He's sort of just orbiting the Abaddon, probably at about 10 kilometers. He's sat there. He's not actually releasing any missiles. I mean, those things, Nighthawk can put out a fair bit of DPS if it needs to. It gets a rate of fire bonus, a bonus to kinetic heavy missile damage as well. So it's interesting to see that they're not actually using it. The Raven seems to be pretty much solo taking on this Abaddon.
Yeah, it seems to be that way indeed, and this Abaddon is actually going down into about 40% armor, which is very surprising. The Abaddon has a very, very nasty tank if you fit it right, and you can actually get about 1000 DPS if you fit it for gank, and still be able to tank about an amount. So, but I think this Abaddon is actually fit with beams.
Yep, and there we go. The Abaddon is firing back there. It looks as if he's changed out to close range crystals. Those will be multi-frequency, I should imagine. Wow, it's strange to see it, but this Nighthawk still isn't doing a great deal. He has a big blob of drones around him now, in fact. He has Hornet EC300s around him now, so he's definitely not going to be doing much if he's been pinned down. We can see there the Damnation, or the Abaddon rather, dipping into structure quite heavily.
Yeah, it'll only be a matter of minutes before the Abaddon goes down, because, you can't really structure tank anything. And it seems like the Nighthawk wasn't firing because of the cloud of jamming drones that were around him. I think they both of them know, from Old Intentions, know that if you don't jam that Nighthawk, it's going to go down much faster for them because of the higher DPS of the Nighthawk.
Yeah, initially, what fazed me about that was initially the guy didn't have any drones around him at all, and he was just kind of, relaxing there like he was on vacation. The drones came along, and now he's unable to really do anything. But yeah, I was expecting more action from the Nighthawk, to be honest. We've lost the Abaddon now. Now we just have the Damnation left on the field, and I should imagine that he's going to probably drop pretty quickly.
Yes, without the jamming drones to support to keep the Nighthawk from on him, it's only a matter of time till he goes down. But you know, as we've seen before, damage is pretty nasty, and the Nighthawk itself may not be able to break him.
Yeah, I think that definitely the Damnation is the choice of command ship for this tournament. I absolutely love it. I'm a bit biased in that respect. I really like the Damnation. I like the concept of the weight boost it's gang. The only other really useful command ship I see in itself for this tournament is the Claymore for its speed bonuses for those who choose to speed tank their loadouts.
Speaking of speed tanking, we haven't really seen too much of a fully fit speed tank team, except for one from IAC before, where they fielded some bonds and some typical fast ships, but they don't seem to be doing too well against fuel tanked and, to a secondary degree, the armor tank teams. Why do you think that this is not a very good tactic? Because as we've seen before, Pandemic Legion actually used this speed to great effect.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's situational, I guess, and not a lot of people are fielding them now since the speed changes and the micro warp drive and scrambler changes. I think it's a little bit more risky to do so now. We can see that the Nighthawk has actually open fired. He's using Caldari Navy Scourge heavy missiles now, I believe. His Damnation's probably going to drop pretty quickly.
Yes, we no damage at all on the Nighthawk or the Raven. Damnation is not really known to be, giving out damage to other ships. It's mainly meant for a gang boosting. It's mainly as a gang boosting or tanking ship. And so we see a lot of its used in large fleets where you want to have, for example, if you have a large fleet of armor wrapping or armor tank ships, you want to use the Damnation because it's very, very effective at giving out armor resist bonuses to those ships. And there he goes.
Oh, they lost quite a chunk of armor there and all of his structure all in one go. Wow, he went down pretty quickly.
Yeah, he certainly did, guys. That was an interesting match right there. Of course, we will be back with the next match as soon as possible. We're just a few minutes behind schedule. Great to see such a good slugfest. We'll be back in a few minutes.